Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High, the Father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Welcome back to Native Creations, and today's video will be about asthma in young children and a little bit on how to understand the respiratory system. So our lungs pick up oxygen and expel waste called carbon dioxide. So whenever we breathe in oxygen, the lungs filter the bad stuff out of the air and it expels it from our bodies as waste called carbon dioxide. Inhalation and exhalation are pulmonary ventilation, which is breathing. External respiration exchanges gases between the lungs and bloodstream. Internal respiration exchanges gases between the bloodstream and the body's tissues. Air vibrates the vocal cords and creates sound. The olfactory or smelling is the chemical sensation that begins in the nasal cavity by air. Asthma itself is an allergy. Some causes of an allergic reaction or attack when you have asthma are fabrics, dander, parasites, mites, pollen, or dust. Things like corn, wheat, dairy, and soy do not cause asthma, but they do worsen the effects of an allergic reaction or an episode. So if you're wondering why your child is constantly coughing, if you can't seem to find any relief for your child, it's because a lot of times it's what you're feeding your child. And so, even though these things don't cause asthma, when a child begins to have an asthma attack, it makes the asthma attack worse. You may want to consider looking at the fabrics that you have in your child's bedroom. It's a good idea to wash their pillowcases like every 2 or 3 days because mites are very microscopic and you won't be able to see them, but they sometimes can be there. And these are things that cause allergic reactions in children with asthma. Dander, if you have pets in your home, parasites can become lodged within the airways of the respiratory system and it can block proper airflow. And this can cause spasmodic coughing, which is coughing all day, all night. And of course, pollen and dust, these things all contribute to a child with asthma having an allergic reaction. Um, Giving your child a nebulizer with the drugs called Pulmicort or albuterol. These things are synthetic drugs and they have serious side effects, and they're also steroids. They can cause chest pain, rashes and hives, and severe itching in children. They can make the child's heart become fast pounding or irregular. You can develop swelling of the face, throat, tongues, lips, eyes, hands, feet. The child will have difficulty swallowing and the breathing becomes worse. And, these things really don't fix the asthma, they just provide maybe a little bit of relief for the asthma, but you're constantly having to refill your prescriptions when your child is prescribed these things because they really don't do anything to reverse the problem. So, these are some things that all contribute to allergic reactions when you have asthma or what make the asthma attacks worse. So the question is, why do some children have asthma? So, children develop asthma first and foremost when their digestive system is not working in the correct, proper working order, meaning if they're eating certain things that do not correspond well with their bloodstream and their digestive system, illnesses and diseases can arise. And I have spoken about leaky gut syndrome many times on this channel, and I explain that when you have leaky gut, food and waste seeps through these small intestines and it is able to get inside of the bloodstream. And the immune system will recognize these things as foreign invaders and begin to attack them. But in that process, the immune system also becomes overzealous and it will start attacking other organs within the body. This is the same way that a person or even a child can develop allergies. And so, since asthma itself is an allergy, you have to look at your diet first, and you need to make a lot of diet changes, and of course, clean out the digestive system. That is why I always stress on my channel the importance of cleansing, not just your colon, but all of the channels of elimination. Like I said before, men have 4 and women have 5. So we want to keep those channels free of uneliminated waste, because waste that sits will just continue to ferment, and fermentation is acidic, and so acid burns and then problems develop. So the first thing to understand when dealing with asthma is, yes, it is relatable to the diet. You have to change the child's diet or your diet. If you have an immune system that is not balanced, in the case of asthma, the immune system's neutrophils, which are cells that supply water to the airways, when those neutrophils are not working properly, there is an imbalance of water and mucus within the respiratory system. And the neutrophils and mast cells are responsible for regulating that water balance. So if that water balance is not regulated, there's not proper vaporization happening within the respiratory system. And this allows for mucus to become stacked up and clogs their air passageways. And this is what brings on the tightening of the chest, or makes the bronchial tubes become constricted. And this is what it is to have an asthma attack. That feeling that you can't breathe properly and the excessive coughing. So this is why some children develop asthma. It's from their diet, and of course things like allergens that trigger the child to have an actual attack. These are things that make asthma so horrible. A lot of people in childhood will develop asthma and outgrow it, but again, if the diet has not changed, then they can see the asthma return when they become an adult. It's also important to know that if you are having frequent asthma attacks that are very severe, it is possible to experience a heart attack because both the lungs and the heart work together. So that's a very serious thing. Your breathing and your heart, they work side by side with one another. And so you want to correct asthma because no one wants to experience a heart attack. So you want to notate that. And if your child has developed asthma, you want to increase water because, as we just mentioned, there's an imbalance with the immune system. The neutrophil cells are not working properly to balance the water. There's not enough water there for proper vaporization, so mucus has become lodged and clogged up in the air passageways. So you want to increase water intake with your children. And I know firsthand, personally, people who do not incorporate water or enough water at all in their child's diet. And again, this goes back to what I mentioned a little bit in one of my other videos about that parenting. Who's going to be the parent, who's going to be the child. Because a lot of parents say, well, my child won't take water, they don't like water, they spit it out, um, they need water, and you will just have to find a way to give them water. And this has to be done on a regular basis. Eventually, they will come around to getting used to water. If you take away things that they like to drink all the time and say, you can't have this juice, but you can have water. If they refuse the water, then you, the parent, also refuse them having the juice. And you let them play, and they're going to get thirsty. And when they get thirsty and you still say, you can't have juice, but you can have water, eventually, in a very short time, they are going to drink the water. And you'll notice right away that they will start asking you for water. So again, you don't want to have a struggle when you're trying to keep your child healthy or trying to get them back healthy. You want to have this process be as easy as possible. So you have to put your foot down, you have to discipline in a way that is conducive to a child's learning, but you be the parent and make sure that your child is getting adequate amounts of water. Um, and then if you decide to fix asthma with herbs, you must know the condition of your child's lungs. Or even if you're an adult that has asthma, you want to know the condition of the lungs, because a lot of people will just go on Google and type up herbs that are good for lungs and go out and buy the herbs and use them, and it doesn't work. It doesn't fix their, lung problem. And they pretty much just write off herbs as like a joke or a quack. But it's important to understand how the body's organs work and function to understand what herbs to use. That's why on my channel I always try to explain things from an anatomy or biological standpoint first before trying to suggest some herbs that you can take for certain illnesses. So if you don't understand the lungs, and if you don't understand herbs, if you have not studied plants and understand plants, how they work by themselves or with other plants together, then you won't be able to effectively fix an illness with herbs. And a lot of people don't trust herbs. They don't think that they work because they haven't seen results. Well, a lot of people are not studied in this profession, and they also do not understand the body. And they also refuse to do cleanses as well as eat the proper way. So you have to look at everything together to get the desired result that you're looking for. But not trying to go off topic here, you want to avoid contraindications when using herbs. So your lungs can have a cold, damp condition, a cold, dry condition, a hot, damp, or hot, dry condition. So if you've got a cold, damp condition of the lungs, you will see things like excessive mucus, wheezing, a head cold, and the body will have chills. Older adults will have chronic bronchitis or walking pneumonia. These are symptoms and signs of a cold, damp condition of the lungs, and you would take certain herbs to combat that issue. On the other hand, if there is a cold, dry condition of the lungs, there will be a cough that's dry, so there's not a lot of mucus production with the cough. You may see a little bit of mucus, but most of the time there's just no mucus at all, so we call it a dry cough. You will also have chills, a dry mouth, and wheezing. So when you have this condition of the lungs, using things like sea moss is great because it moistens the lungs and airways, and it helps to supply, a damp condition to the lungs so that the cough can be more productive. Sea moss does that. But you wouldn't use sea moss for the cold, damp condition because there's already a damp condition there. There's excessive mucus. We don't want to increase that problem. We want to do the opposite. So you would not use sea moss for the cold, damp condition. You would use it for the cold, dry condition. And so that's just one little example on how you're supposed to be using herbs. Um, because again, like I said before, if you take a single herb by itself, it does certain things. But when you combine that same herb with other herbs, it does more things for different conditions. So, and that's the great thing about plants, that they're so unique and complex that they just do so many things. So I hope that this video was again informative and helpful. Um, Again, try to keep your child's immune system strong, so adequate amounts of vitamin C and lots of water, a healthy diet, keep their colon cleansed, do flushes with their colons on a regular basis, and make sure that they're chewing their food properly as well. A lot of children don't chew their food small enough, and they're swallowing large chunks of food, and this can also upset the digestive system. But stay tuned for more videos. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.